Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of episode 8 of FORGECAST. I always find that bit, the hardest bit of the whole podcast, because it's not half stone. That's not
Absolutely
why.
agree.
I got the names right. I'm back again with Lee and Bobby. Hi, Lee and Bobby. How are you doing? Oh, I messed up on the names. I did so well. I was doing so well. Long Tim and Attila. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, now we got the proper one.
That's the AWOL reference. Yeah, if you're not listened to part one, guys, we've just been waffling on about the new Tau and some of our kind of favorite cards on the Ecclesiarts channel. So as always, go and check out his channel. Yeah, we're just sort of getting hyped, really. It's day one, the Tower out. Just wanted to kind of build on where we were saying. So we just started to talk about a few cards. And I think you were midpoint as well, Ecclesiart. Were you going to add something?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say like what I think about the warlords. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna talk a little bit about the warlords.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly speaking, currently from what I've seen, I would assume that the weakest is gonna be the legendary one. Currently, because I mean I might be wrong once again because the 40 HP is still a thing, right, guys? So it's not never a good idea to underestimate 40 HP. But apart from that, the whole thing there, the whole problem is that he doesn't really do anything too special. As I know, what he basically does is he either buffs a troop with ranged attack or unit, doesn't really matter for one turn, or he applies marker light, right? So yeah, he basically is telling you, okay, I can execute a 3 health troop, which is always really good, but almost all the warlords can currently do that, so it's not a big feat, right?
Can Onvar do
But
that?
who?
Onvar? Can Onvar do that?
I don't remember actually. I don't remember what exactly Onvar has there, but Onvar seems like the go-to control warlord. I think he'll be number 2 because he can generate like a ton of value essentially. So it's like really crazy. I think he cannot do that on turn 1. It's gonna be like very so it's gonna be big, but I think the strongest one is going to be the drone warlord because the amount of value that thing can generate is nuts. Because it's summoning 3 HP units and it has flying on top of that. Like, what am I supposed to do if I'm playing Swarmlord? Like, I'm just gonna auto lose that, right?
You switch to
So
play Terror of Vandergast and you get yourself a
yeah,
Flying Lord.
yeah. Actually, Zagstruck and
Zagstrup? Oh,
Vandergast
yeah.
are gonna go
Yeah.
up.
Zagstrup
But
control. That's the way
actually,
forward.
that's the funny part. The fact that the drone warlord is gonna be very strong actually is gonna increase the value on the legendary warlord. I think because of that, the legendary warlord will actually be able to execute the is actually going to be able to execute the 3 HP drones, right? So there's that point. But my prediction is, in terms of like meta, the drone warlord will be number 1, the epic will be number 2, and legendary will be number 3. I might be messing up the epic and the legendary, but drone warlord number 1 for sure. So what
So
about you
I'll
guys?
tell you a little comment on that. And this
Mm,
very early days, right? I've literally had one play session. So and actually, my first draft, I've played 2 games, won one, lost one, is with Onvar. I'm not sure about Onvar yet.
mm,
So we all know in Warpforge that tempo is really important, and trading and clearing the board is really important. And the legendary warlord is much better than Onvar in the first few turns at doing that in particular, right? Because he can always, like you say, he can use the marker light for only 1 point. It feels a bit almost like Neurothrope, is it the Tyranid one with the little ping, and
yeah.
it feels a bit like that, like with the 1 energy to ping, like, and whereas Onvar can't. And so think about Onvar. First turn, you're sitting there. You don't have a 2 cost card. What do? You play his 1 energy, give himself 1 health. It's a very weak first turn compared to Shadow Sun can remove up to a 3 health unit, or obviously, as you say, rightfully
Hmm.
say, the drone guy is busted. He's definitely the best. So I have a feeling that Shadow Sun now could be better because Onvar's can be
Mm,
very good, but the other part of Onvar is not only he does the one health increase, right, to him and the 2 things, but then he also gets the serene ability, which costs 2. And then if you want to give the armor to all troops, which is very powerful, by the way, when you get a wide board, but then that's basically another 3 energy in total because it does discount it by 1. So what I started to realize with Onvar is you have to basically not play your cards and put a lot of points into his. So basically, you're not using his hero power until much later in the game. Now, it makes me think a little bit of Anvir in the Eldari, that because Anvir also generates lots of value, but he's nowhere near as good as Galen, right? And
Of course
I
not.
wonder whether Onvar is going to end up being in a slow meta. Onvar is going to be very good, but if it
Yeah,
gets
with value generation.
but if it gets fast, I think he'll be. I don't think he'll be very good, and I think Shadowsun will be more useful and valuable there in countering, like you say, enemy drones. The one caveat I will say about that is the offense card. The offense card could
Hmm.
really mess Shadowsun up, and I really don't like that card, boys. Like from a
It
design point,
actually
I just
does, yeah.
it's so bad. It's like it just feels like it's just nerfing Markalite completely.
Actually, I'm gonna put one thing out there. Sorry, BJ, for like
Yeah, so
interjecting. I just gotta say one thing. I think that offense card needs a change like ASAP. First of all,
yeah.
because it completely ruins Shadow Sun. Because Shadow Sun can no longer remove anything if that is the case. But the second thing, which is more important, I would say, is how are you going to deal with chaos? Like somebody tell me, like how are we stopping chaos as Tau? So they do the offense card. They will drop their Venom Crawler, which is by default camouflaged. What are you doing?
Well,
What are you gonna
you
do?
can put Markalite on things
Well,
from a
rally,
rally
yeah,
effect,
but like,
and that's where again Tim's buddy comes in. What's he called? I keep forgetting his name for some reason. Pathfinder. That's it. Yeah. So yeah, there are ways around it, but you're right. I mean, there's not an offense card in the game that just completely nerfs an entire mechanic. Imagine an offense card against Chaos that said Dark Pacts don't work. What? You'd be like, or against Necrons, it said, don't allow remnants to to get back up. It'd
remnants
be like,
cannot be resurrected
it's like
anymore.
it's an army mechanic. It's a faction mechanic that you are nerfing. I think that's a terrible, terrible offense. I agree. I think that needs to change. I'd like to see that hotfix changed. I'm literally, I'm on the forge and I'm about to get it.
I
So
already I
I'm
already got
coming.
it,
I'm
and
coming for you, tab players. Chaos on ladder. Here we go.
yeah,
Um,
imagine like
well,
you
Zagstruck
play against
control.
Abaddon, and not even let's not even talk about Venom Crawler. He drops the veteran, not veteran, but the Chaos Legionary with, oh my god, come on, that's, or even another. He drops the Noise Marine, and you're
Yeah.
like, well, okay, I guess I just die.
Or like Zagstruck control. I'm like, okay, all my removal doesn't care about targeting. I've got no mucking about Will of God. I've got a
Yeah,
flying dude who takes out all your drones. Like, yeah, let's see who's and orcs are out controlling and out shooting the towers. It's like what's going on, man? I don't know. I think that's a bad card, but I mean, without that though, I do think Shadow Sun might end up being a little bit low key better than people think, and especially with the
mm,
40 health. But honestly, I actually think that the drone guy is way above both of them. I think he's like a 5 out of
too
5,
good.
and I think the other guys are both about 3, to be honest. Now that's based on day one play. It could change. It could change.
Yeah,
Go on, Tim.
definitely the rankings that you guys are talking. I mean, I largely agree. I mean, I haven't uh had been able to touch the actual gameplay yet, but I think it really reminds me of the three warlords for the Eldar, and just like Madriel having all of this value packed in pretty cheaply, and Veer, like we talked about, and even Shadow Sun kind of doing this like Zephyr Blade impression in a way. And I think, what's so tragic about the offense card is that I would love for offense and defense cards to like feel like they have a more noticeable role in a way. Like I think it's a balancing problem because it's whether it's like, okay, we're in a meta or we've been in a game state where going second is just better, right? Like whenever I was playing Ultramarines for the most part, right? I want the thing that's going to make a troop cost less, and going second, that's fine. Um, and you don't want to incentivize going first, right? Because that's the sort of classic card game issue, right? Is, in Magic it's -10, which is not a good look for design. So it's one of those things where like you want the offense cards to kind of make sense, right, in the scheme of Warhammer 40K and battling. And I think there's a great opportunity there. And I said this in a video like months ago. It feels like a way to give the game more of an identity that has not been given by other games. So I really hope that there's an opportunity in the design space, whoever's really working on this, to kind of like take stock of how the offense and defense cards operate now. Really look at them, and definitely this is a card to look at where, okay, you want there to be some sort of counterplay or some sort of interference, right? Like some sort of angle that you're getting or an edge that you're getting, but not one that like shuts someone out, and not one that like basically wipes away the identity of a warlord or something like that. You just want it to maybe bump the percentage points a little bit. And I really, to make the matchups more important or more interesting, or really having knowledge of specific warlord matchups and offense and defense to know and like get those competitive edges. And so I really hope that can be a focus at some point. And obviously we want more content for the game. We want more sets, reinforcements, all that good stuff. But I do hope that there's a little bit more attention paid to the offense and defense cards.
Good points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the defense card idea. That in CCGs, it's always been a problem when you go in second. What do you do? You've got to have something. Hearthstone had the coin. Gwent struggled for years on trying to get something right. Eventually, they sort of got there. But I think it's the offense cards that I just don't like in this game. I just don't see the point in them, and I think they also can kind of like almost like make the cards themselves meaningless. It's like, I'm playing Control Orcs, I'm playing against Swarmlord, I'm going to put Acid Rain on all those big beefy units. Like, almost doesn't matter really what cards we're both playing now all of a sudden. It's like, it's just ruined the game almost, It feels like cheating, and
It's like the orbital bombardment. It ruins the game for everybody.
yeah, it's pointless, isn't it? It's just like, yeah, I'm not too sure on it.
To cut in for, especially if it's RNG, right? Like 10% chance for. There was a game I'll never forget. I had 4 orbital bombardments the first 4 turns, and I was just like, I don't think either of us enjoyed this, and I don't think either of us would want there to be more like what we would call like bad RNG in the game, right? Like there is a difference in those sort of concepts, and I think I totally agree. The offense cards are where the problem lies, and I don't know what the solution is, but I do think that it's an opportunity for the game to kind of break out of like what other games have done, and I hope there's a way that we can kind of see more of that.
For sure.
I mean, honestly, there is a potential there for sure, because you basically got a situation where you can benefit. Well, first of all, the defense cards, let me just say, is a great idea. I remember the first time when defense cards became a thing. This was in HHL after like I think 2 years of the game existing or something. They basically decided, okay, you know what, we're gonna add a defense card to every faction. It was called Counterattack, and those were huge. Like, it skyrocketed. I remember just by adding the defense card, it skyrocketed Perturabo's win rate, because Perturabo's problem was that he could not deal with a turn 1 3 HP unit. Well, guess what? They gave him a card. 0 cost, deal 1 damage to all units on the battlefield, and suddenly he can do it. So, like, it was a big deal, right? It was a huge deal, and honestly speaking, I really like it. It's really cool, but I also like the offense card idea. I think the offense card idea is perfect. It's just that it needs to change a little bit, obviously, because from what it is now, there's only a few offense cards that are genuinely good. Like, I like the Eldar one, because in certain matchups you can use it, and it's also not like some people are saying that it's a huge nerf to the Eldar, which I kind of disagree with, to be honest. I think that the offense cards that the Eldar have, it can benefit the Eldar as well, because you're essentially risking giving Madrial Galen even more tempo on turn 1. She can drop 2 units now, and so on. It's crazy good. There are a few offense cards that are playable. I especially like the one I think is the Ultramarine one. When once a player gets the skull, the opposing player gets the mana energy, because that's like meant to shut down the Ultramarine aggro, which is also really interesting. So yeah, a lot of good stuff, but it needs to change for sure. And by the way, I'm still gonna put it out there: move the friggin' Tyranid defense card to the starting point, for Christ's sake. He's not supposed to be.
Yeah,
whatever.
the level 20 forge thing.
I essentially sound like a broken record at this point. So yeah, whatever.
Please keep saying it, because I still don't have it, and so I'm not playing Tyranid.
Yeah, like we totally need to keep doing that, man.
We didn't play it though, did we? I remember we were both like, "Oh, we're really close. We can finally start playing Tyranids once we've hit Forge 20." Like, we didn't even bother playing the faction until we got it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No point.
Can you guys see that screen there with the
Yes, sir, I can.
Legend cards. I just want to make sure that I've got that on the record. Yeah, okay. So the reason I've put this up, guys, is I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on terms of the legendaries. Like, a common question a lot of people are going to have, right? They're just kind of collecting the towel like we are. They're just starting out. And they're going to get a few wildcards soon in the campaign. And they're going to want to know, like, what are the good ones? Which order would you craft them in? My first thought on that is it really depends what type of Tau deck you want to play. I think one of the things that the legendaries have done really well in the Tau is that they're all useful, but they are very much...
They're all pretty good,
they're 4 very specific archetypes, right? So, like, that's the first observation. But what do you guys reckon? Let's just kind of go through them, and then maybe if you could tell me, like, what would be your top 3, like, what order would you craft? You know, and I get that that's personal, right? It's literally what do you want to craft? It's not like what do you think objectively is the best, but like what do you want to craft first? So you've already talked a bit about Shadow Sun, Ecclesiarch. Do you think that's probably one that you're not necessarily running out to go and get straight away?
I'm not gonna run. I mean, eventually down the line, obviously, I want that warlord, but I'm not gonna get it yet. I think the drone warlord is just way better.
Yeah,
that's
agree.
not something that I'm gonna do. One of the first cards I'm definitely gonna get is Long Strike. It's like essential, I think. I think it's like, sorry, I think it's one of the things that you should instantly be getting. But if we're also talking about the other legendaries, like I've already mentioned why this is very important, right? I'm not gonna get too deep into that.
Just quickly on Long Strike, one thing I think you didn't say earlier is the you talked about how it can do 12 damage, but I actually think the better thing about Long Strike is that it can take out 2 units. So it can put the 5 Markalite on 1 troop, which then your Warlord can kill a 7 health unit, by the way. And meanwhile, it takes out another big troop with the 7 flank. So in that sense, it is somewhat akin to the old Hemlock, because obviously Hemlock had 5 blast, but this is a bit more targeted, right? You can literally kill 2 units fairly easy with Long Strike. So and of course, like you said, you can put the 12 damage on if you need to smash something really big like a Land Raider or something. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, so this is like my go-to. I'm definitely getting this as one of the first cards. Like, there's no question there. Can you shut that one down?
Yeah, just a sec. There we go.
Now, what I will get for the second one is a very difficult choice. Let me tell you that. Because one of the problems that we have right now is that there's so many good legendaries. And it's funny that I say that it's a problem, but you know what? It is what it is, okay? So basically, I'll tell you, Emergency Dispensation is definitely going to be a great card, because those types of energy cheats, let's say like that, from my experience from HHL, they've always been nerfed to the ground very soon, because like it's just too good, okay? You get so much value. Like, imagine you play that into Long Strike and suddenly your Long Strike costs 5 energy. What? So it's a little crazy.
But there's an even better value cheat than that, because Long Strike is just 8 and you're just getting 3 discount, right? Now imagine you've played one of the 3 drops, that says all drones cost for the remainder of the battle, all drones cost
Yeah.
1 less. So what you then do is you play this into like a Pathfinder. So not a Pathfinder, sorry, a Piranha. The Piranha
Absolutely.
goes from 4 cost to 1, but also the drones are getting the discount. So you're actually getting more value, if that makes sense, right? That value chain gets extended through it, and because it shows you 3 troops, obviously you can choose them. One thing I did notice though, obviously, is what happens if you do get a Pathfinder in one of your 3. Like, you've got to get something that costs 3 or more to get that value, right? So it doesn't necessarily fit in every deck. I don't think it's that good in like aggro decks, for example, where you're going to have lots of low to the ground stuff. But yeah, in the more mid-range to control stuff, this is going to be super cool.
Yeah, this is good. This is gonna be super cool because, from my experience, every single card like this in HHL was nerfed. Like every single one. So like it
Yeah.
never. They didn't even let the card called Astral Incursion survive. It cost a lot. It was like 5 energy, but it cheated like with 5 energy, I think. And yeah, they were like, okay, no.
So what-
I don't think I'm gonna get For the Greater Good. Because I mean it's cool. It's a protective card for your warlord that can definitely work. It's like a weaker discount version of the Ultramarine card. The Ultramarine card is just way better. However, the cool thing is there's another use for this. Actually, no, I'm lying. Now that I think about it, if you're drone spamming, you can put this on your warlord, and your warlord becomes frontline. He becomes Vanguard.
Very powerful.
Nasty.
I didn't even
Nasty.
realize you could put it on the warlord, and
You can.
It's so good. I've used this today, and I have to say it's even better than I thought. Like, this is pretty powerful because, again, like, Vanguard is super key in the Tau strategies. Like, we talked about that card I brought up in my card of the week, right? Like, if you drop that for 4 energy on turn 6 and you drop this on something else, there you go, you've set it up. Even something that looks a little bit stupid, like a hammerhead. Yeah? Drop a hammerhead and this. That hammerhead's suddenly a massive threat now, isn't it? Like, how are you going to deal with a hammerhead? And it's got long strike. Oh my god! And then Michael, like, oh my god, what am I going to do about this tank? Like, if you haven't got hard removal, good luck. Like, and so I dropped it on the other legendary as well. This guy, Onshi. I dropped it on him. He's got shield as well, so it's just like,
That's pretty scary.
It's just insane. And my opponent was like, "Okay, what do I do to that?" I don't have
Oh, by the way, speaking of which, that's a very strong unit.
Oh, this unit's so cool. And I think the thing with this unit that's very good, and this could easily, if someone said to me this is the first one I'm going to craft, I could understand it because, well, first of all, it's the best card art in the game, I think. I just love the art on this card. It looks so cool. But the other thing is that it does make, he says your troops. So basically all types get 1 less. So if you're playing a drone deck, brilliant, 1 less. If you're playing battle suits, brilliant, 1 less. Like infantry, everything. So I think this guy is super good, coming in with the shield. And he also works nicely in the Onvar deck because the Onvar guy can basically he can give shields, and then this guy can give shield through his Serene Unifier as well. So like, there's multiple ways basically to give him shields and just keep putting shields on. It's really powerful.
Yeah, it is. And honestly speaking, Dark Strider is also pretty good. Experimental Drones is good. Honored Ethereal is nice, but I'm not sure if I would like go too far. I would. Okay, I'm gonna just say it and give the word to you guys. So my first ones are gonna be Long Strike,
Yeah.
Dispension,
Right.
and on Shi if I'm playing a control deck.
On she.
If I want to play a drone deck, then it's Dark Strider for the greater good and experimental drones. Honored Ethereal gets left out a little bit, I think.
No, it's a shame. Okay, let's before he takes them all, Tim. Jump in. What are your thoughts on the legendaries? Just overall, what are your thoughts, and which ones stand out for you, and what are you going to craft first?
Yeah, I mean, first thing is that it just feels like all of them have like a role to play, and definitely they can sort of bend towards a certain strategy, but a lot of them just kind of on raw power level especially some of the units like Dark Strider and Onshi and Longstrike. They just have so much upfront value that it's just you're going to be so happy to play these cards. I think the way that I would probably approach when we're rich with really good legendaries is really trying to identify where are the gaps in my curve and which legendaries would I want to kind of plug those gaps with or make those gaps better, right? So I don't know offhand, how many good 3-drops, 4-drops, 6, 8 there are. So I would kind of want to go through and sort of say, at least for the units like Dark Strider, Honored Ethereal, Anshi, okay, how many good 3-drops are there? What's good to do on turns 3, 4, and 6? Okay, do I feel like I've got that kind of filled out? All right, really trying to think if I'm not putting any sort of currency in here and I'm really trying to maximize my value, then I'm just going to try and find where my curve is kind of the weakest and sort of plug that hole, as it were. So the ship keeps on, hitting people in the face with marker light and slamming into them. So I will say Dark Strider, it was one of my reveals, and I love this card. I really feel like, a stealth 3/3/3 for 3 that also affects your drones, later on or sort of in the mid game, and just structural analyzer giving you some excellent value. Any marker light on a warlord, right, is just going to be
Absolutely.
we got to consider that, right? And Ecclesiarch really made that point very clearly, and I think it's so much value in a 3-drop, right? And it's coming from the Magic background. If I'm looking at a pack of cards and I'm drafting, and there are 2 cards on relatively equal power level, I'm taking the cheaper one, right? Because although this game isn't all sort of around your curve necessarily, right? But I would say when the meta is more tempo based, you're going to want to have the unit that has the smaller casting cost with the same amount of value. And I think Dark Strider just is value city. So
And aggro city as well. This guy is, I mean, he's going to be, I think, the first one I get. And the reason why I say that is that a lot of the meta Tau decks, you're going to need to have all the epic cards, right? You're going to need other legendaries that complement. I think one of the cheapest in terms of not needing loads of legendaries but effective meta decks is going to end up being an aggro Tau deck. You don't actually need lots of the epics and legendaries to make it work, but you do need this guy. So imagine that you play a marker drone turn 1 for 2 energy from the drone boy lord, yeah? So you play that in the first turn, then you play this guy in the second turn. Well, you've just put him next to a drone that you played the first one, so that's now got stealth. This guy comes down with stealth. Then turn 4, you've got 4 turn 3, you've then got 4 energy, right? So you now use this for the marker light, and then you drop a stealth drone to put him back into stealth, and then the next turn you've got it again and by that point you've put something like 5-6 marker lights on the Lord, and the Lord's like, it's turn 5 and I've got no health left, what's going on? It's just, and I can't hit you back either, by the way, because everything's been in stealth, and it's just crazy. It's just, I think I always like cheap, effective legendaries, right? Because I feel like you're going to be able to use him all the time. Whereas, say it's turn 3 and I draw a long strike, he's going to just sit in my hand, taking up a card slot for 5-6 turns till I get to actually use him. Obviously, when I get to use him, he's great. But if you were looking for tempo, I'm like, well, that's a card I could have had that I don't have, and that's not like a warpforge thing. That's true of every CCG. In Magic the Gathering, if you could have the best legendary cards ever, but if they all take 10 what they call them, not fields, what are they called in Magic, what do you need to play a mana? Lands.
Yeah, lands.
Yeah, if you need 10 lands to play them, it doesn't matter how good the card is, it's just taking up a spot that you might as well have had something else. And that's the only downside to Long Strike. Whereas Dark Strider is just always going to be effective, always going to be usable, right? He's just so good. Yeah. I think the Honoured Ethereal's a weird one. I'm not sure what deck do we think this guy's going to go in, because does he have some anti-synergy, right? Because it says adjacent troops have Vanguard. You don't necessarily want to put your flying drones into Vanguard, do you?
Don't worry, guys.
No.
There's supposed to be a shit legendary in every factions.
Do
It's
you think
okay.
this? Do you think this is bad?
I know it's not bad because you know why it's not bad? It's not bad because the stats are good. Like you got a 4 HP unit, 4 energy unit, sorry, with 5/5 and the shield, okay? So that already makes this unit good. And what's the ability again?
It just says adjacent troops have
No,
Vanguard.
the talent, the
Oh,
talent.
sorry, the talent. Yeah, it's the Serene Unifier. It's
Oh,
the
it's
one
the
that chooses an
Serene Unifier.
invocation. So you can keep putting the shield back on himself for basically for very cheap, like for 2.
Okay.
Or-
Here's the thing, BJ. I'm just gonna put it out there. Shield in general is very strong. We've had like Mechanicum troops added in legions, and Mechanicum troops were in a way that everybody could play them except Chaos Demons. So basically, they had a lot of troops that legendaries that just had inflated stats, like a 5 energy, 4/5 with shield, or like 6 energy, 6/6 with shield, and everybody was playing that because shield is just strong.
Yeah.
So I think I simply joked. The ability is not that good with the Vanguard, but 4 energy 5/5 shield, beautiful.
Yeah.
Why the hell not?
Yeah. And then
It's a great thing.
and the other 2 are pretty useful as well. As what again, just from a limited time today, I found the other 2 really useful. Giving +2 range attack to everything on the board can be really, really potent, and equally giving the armor, right? Because I forgot that the armor is like +1 to all your troops. It's not just one. It's super good. So I guess the only one we've not really talked about is this one. What do we think to this legendary then?
That's essential for a room build.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so annoying. Like imagine you want to play the game and there's gun drones just dropping and dropping and they got shield.
Imagine you want to play the game.
Imagine you want to play the game and you're Swarm Lord and you're like, like what are you gonna do?
Just like getting really angry, waving your swords at the skies while you get shot to pieces and mark.
Yeah, it's terrifying. You'll have to attack them 4 times to kill them.
It is a bit slower, right? It's like the turn you play this, you know you're gonna get, because like if you are playing Tyranids who are playing, you know, what they play, Spore Assist or Tyranid Prime or something like that on curve, and you just play this, and then they play something next to it and buff it. It's like you're so far behind now.
Though there's some cool synergy though there, BJ. Do you remember like that card that they have that deploys 3 drones?
Mm-hmm.
You could play this and then play that, and suddenly you got 3 shielded units there. That could be pretty strong.
By the way, you know that. What do you think to that card? Because I've found it to be surprisingly pretty good. In a few hours of playing, but I'm trying to find it.
It's gonna be good, especially if you consider that. Yeah.
I mean, my question was like, is it going to drop drones that you don't want to have Vanguard? So it was kind of one of those things where I want to see how the RNG kind of plays out. But I mean, if we think about just comparing it to the Orc 3 energy, you get 3 Grots. I mean, obviously this is higher costed, but it also has higher upside. But also, I'm like, is there a hidden downside because you would not want them to have Vanguard because they're flying? So I can't say for sure if this is going to be good or not. But I do think for, you know, to Ecclesiarch's point, like definitely, I feel like that legendary that gives drones shield for the rest of the battle is definitely the most toxic card that we have out of the bunch. And I imagine it has to be good. Now it's probably a little bit dependent on how fast or slow the meta is. So that's probably why out the gate I wouldn't be like so excited to craft this, because I would kind of want to see how things are playing. But I have to think that this thing is going to be kind of meta shaping at some point, because it's going to be this like kind of infinite value that you're getting. Not that late into the game. I think it's probably correctly costed at 4 energy. Not too early, not too late.
Yeah, it's like, as I said, the Imperial Fist Stalwart Defender. And the thing is, with Imperial Fist, we had 2 copies of those, and we still played it. Both copies. So, and HHL was, I still believe, a little bit faster than warpforge. So yeah, like I can see this working.
And not to get too ahead of ourselves here, because I know we're going over legendary, but I am just kind of from the Darkstrider design perspective with and even just thinking about on-fee, there are a lot of these units that come in, have some good upfront value, and then they on the what I would call like the backside are also getting you value. And I'm interested to see what some of these epic stealth units, like is the upfront value and the back end value like too much, too little? Because I think also there are just so many cards in the Tau Empire that are giving you like a great front side, and then if that thing lives, it's like excellent, like additional.
It's extra
value.
terrifying.
Yeah, it's just it's hard to. It's like how could they ever be bad in a mid-range aggro kind of meta? And then like with control, then maybe it's more about like, all right, we get a little punish for going wide, with Will of Gork or other things like that. But again, getting plenty of time maybe to set up. So it just feels like the faction is super well-rounded to me in terms of just like value,
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. All right, cool. So that's all of the legendaries. We talked a little bit earlier about playing against them, didn't we? We mentioned a few things. Is there anything? I mean, like is there anything else that we'd add? When we talked about Zagstruck, we talked about some of the removal stuff. It does feel like Swarm Lord's obviously going to struggle. I think probably picking a different, Neurothrop or the Terror might actually find a spot possibly. I feel like Blind is a bit of a forgotten ability that might come back, right? Like remember the November meta when Ultramarines ruled and everyone ran like blinds, like the 1-drops, and you've even got like cards that haven't been used much, like Necrons have a spell, don't they, that blinds? Does it blind everything? And Tyranids have a 4-costed blind. I think it blinds 2 units.
I think it's 3 cost. Yeah,
I think
energy.
Blind could be really Tau could be the faction to play Blind for, really. What do you?
Yeah, it really does shut them down completely. So yeah,
100%. Like, because then you go, oh yeah, you've got all these Mark lights on me, but you can't actually trigger them with anything.
we're actually gonna see the resurgence of the Octavia Infiltrator.
Yeah, could well be. Yeah.
I would welcome him back with open arms because it's been, the scouts actually been getting more play than that guy. So
I think the other thing I realised as well, like again playing from the Tau perspective, is just units that have high range damage. Because like imagine like a shooter boy, for example, 3-drop with 4 range damage. It's like, okay, even if I've marker lit you, I've got to trigger the marker light by using my range attack. Well, now I go into your 4 range attack and I die anyway, right? So like even my crisis suit dies to that. So like I think just having high range attack just to meet the Tau means you'll still trade effectively. Like, so that's something to consider. Of course, things like Vet Stormboy are going to make a mockery, right? Like anything that's flying and high melee is just going to be, Tau's going to be breakfast, isn't it? But I mean, Vet Stormboy kind of does that to everything. I kind of feel like, to be honest.
Honestly speaking, one of the scary things that I see about the Tau is that on one side, like you are thinking, okay, these guys are gonna play drones. They're gonna spam drones. We're gonna keep it under control, and they're gonna spam marker lights. So I'm gonna pick, let's say, the offense card and that and this. But how did I look at it? I might wanna actually think twice about the whole offense card thing, because they have legendaries with such good value. Like, look at the stats on that thing, right? On everything basically. And do they even have a single bad legendary? I don't think they do. Every faction has 2 bad legendaries. Let me quickly point it out. So with Necrons, you got the Obsidian Destroyer, that is a terrible legendary. With Eldar, you got the Avatar of Cain. With Orcs, Orcs don't really have many bad legendaries, to be honest. I think
Orcs are okay. I mean,
Orcs are all right. With Ultramarines, it's Kato Sicarius, obviously, and Avenging Seal is meh. With Chaos, it's Iskandar Kaon, as well as the 4-cost legendary that I don't even know a name of. It's so bad. Demonic Pact, yeah. And with Tyranids, well, I'm not sure if the Hive Tyrant is playable, but it used to be the worst one. So these guys don't have bad legendaries, and it's not even with the orcs. Like they don't have bad legendaries, but they have two that are very situational and questionable. With the Tau, you could just throw everything into your deck.
But I mean, I'm happy about that. I mean, is that because like, oh, it's power creep and these guys are broken, or is that just because actually they've got better at card design? Like,
Perhaps they got better. Yeah, that
yeah.
could be a positive side.
I mean, I don't want to see a new faction come out with bad legendaries. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a handful of bad cards, but you don't want to see bad legendaries. I mean, there's nothing worse than me opening up, getting my wild card on my campaign that I've played all week for, and then I get the bad legendary. So I'm kind of happy about that, and yeah, I think this is throughout the whole faction though. There's not tons of bad cards. There are some, definitely, but I don't think there's as many, and that's certainly from a deck building perspective. I think that makes it a lot more fun and interesting.
Yeah, to your point earlier, BJ, I really would like. I know it's not gonna. I don't know that I would want it for every single faction, but your point about the orcs and their level of kind of like flexibility and sort of complexity with deck building, maybe not everyone wants to go for something like that, but I do think that the Tau have that sort of feeling, where there are just so many options.
Yeah.
And maybe for a starting player, that's not quite where you want to be. But as you play the game, like I have to think that is the way that design I would want it to go.
100%.
And I really hope that this is kind of a sign that we are getting a little bit more sophisticated with making cards like not completely dead, or even if they're situational, they feel like a very important niche. So that there's just less of that feels bad. Like definitely, not all legendaries have to be these like kind of game breaking cards, certainly, but you would want the rarity to kind of scale with like a general impact in the game, and not be like immediately came to mind like Avenging Zeal, and like even the sniper unit. It's like I've been playing Ultramarines since alpha. I've barely touched some of these cards, and to some of the great work BJ's already done on like how do we make these cards better, or why are these cards good, why is this design good. I think that most folks would be happy if you could actually feasibly play more and more of a faction.
Well said.
And I hope that is the trend that we see. And funnily enough, I do think that orcs have so many tools that maybe they're a great fit to sort of deal with the incoming Tau invasion. So we'll see how that goes for the Green Boys.
I think you said that. I couldn't put it back myself, and that's why I think Tau are going to take over from Orcs as my favourite faction, because it is the flexibility, and it is complexity. Like I got stuff wrong when I was playing earlier, and I miscalculated, and I think that's going to happen a lot when you're first working it out, and figuring out the actual most optimised deck will be fun. But interestingly, I don't think there's really a unit that you think, well, my opponent couldn't take it out. Like there's not something in there that goes, my opponent just can't deal with that unit. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's also a sign of a good. Like I just said, like I put a veteran Storm Boy into almost any card here, and it can deal with it, especially with Makari, right? It's like it can deal with anything pretty much. So like, okay, 6-drop flanker, you're dead. So I think that's a good sign. Whereas if it was like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a card that you just thought, I just can't do anything again. Like Termagants are one, for example. The Tervagon build at the minute, that's like a tier 1 deck. If that thing's done its thing and gone off, you look at the board and go, there is nothing I can do. And that feels bad. That feels broken. It doesn't feel like you did something wrong and misplayed. It feels like something's broken about the game. Whereas I don't know that if we're gonna get that here, but we'll see. All right, guys. So I'm very conscious that Tim has got home from work and not even had a chance to play with the cards. So let's talk about what you're going to do then, Tim. So like you're going to literally open up the game. What does talk us through? What's your plan? What are you going to do with the Tau? What are you going to do day 1, week 1? What are you thinking?
Oh man, it's like you're a kid in a candy store, and you're like, what do I even do now that I've got it? I think yeah, I mean I'm just gonna get those packs rolling from the premium campaign. I was really happy that was a deal that rolled out, because yes, you're paying the $20 for me, for the premium, but then you're also getting spotted the 5 packs. You got 4 packs from drops that are going to be up on Twitch, so definitely, I hope all of us will be seeing each other in the streams very soon. See what I get, and definitely start filling out that campaign. I'm trying to see if I can hit like top leaderboard for this month, and I've kind of like gone back and forth on how much I enjoy it. Ooh, this is looking good. This
Nice
guy,
broadside.
yeah, that guy I'm really interested to see, because that's a card that feels like, again, has like a ton of incredible value. But yeah, just cracking some packs, see what we open, fill out that campaign, and then start kind of tinkering a bit, and just really getting a sense of how things are. But I will say, like, it was great to hear you say there's going to be an aggro, or is a very clear aggro kind of strategy, because I am a little partial to aggro, and I really was happy with the Uriel meta, and we're very far from that now. And so for me, just as trying to compete on the ladder and all of that, I do hope there's some insane marker light action that I can get into as soon as possible. So
Nice. So you are going to go and play ranked then. You are looking to get in, because I'm not really. I honestly don't think I'm going to touch ranked for a long time, because we just haven't got the cards. I'm really enjoying playing the practice decks. I'm going to do a bit of content around this, and then also actually playing some draft. And actually getting used to the cards. Because the good thing is, in both of those modes, you do get to use the cards you haven't got. Right, you get to use the legendaries, you get to use the big cards and stuff, so get used to them. And you've got the premium campaign, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and I'm just like so interested to see. Like, I might just kind of go through. I know you're doing some cool content on that, BJ, and I kind of just want to see what are the cards offered, and what are the cards I open, and just kind of do a little bit of this mapping of like, okay, if I was trying to get what I would consider a competitive deck as quickly as possible, how do I sort of map this out to kind of get there, with the least amount of time, if
Yeah.
I'm really trying to do that for myself? What is that going to look like? Which points in the curve and all of that do I kind of have to optimize on? And drafting, I think, is just like one of the best ways to dive in. And honestly, I haven't done a ton of it fairly recently. So to your point, I think that's a really good opportunity, especially for new and old players. And I don't know, is it, BJ, that if you lock in Tau, like, is it still all army packs, or are they doing like a Tau promotion yet in the game? For like, because there was a time with reinforcement drops where you had a chance to get like a certain
On draft. Oh, that's a good point. I don't know, actually. That's a good point. They haven't said that. I don't think they've been explicit about that in the news.
I'm hoping that does come, but I don't know if that is.
I'm hoping for that too, because my plan for tomorrow is to kind of spam draft and do the missions to just rank up the campaign. And as soon as I finish the campaign, I'm gonna bust the ranked instantly. Like, I'm gonna get right in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see how far I can go with the Tau this season.
Yeah,
I
'cause
want that. I want that 50 card back.
have we seen what the card back is for this season?
I don't think we have.
No.
I only missed the first season one. I got the second and third, and I want to keep getting it. So yeah.
So basically, if people are new as well, you kind of don't want to spend your legendary wildcards until you finish the campaign, do you? Because you can get
No
a
way.
random one, and then you end up with a duplicate. So
No way, because my
definitely wait.
first experience was terrifying. Like, I remember when I started, I bought the Necron premium campaign, and I crafted Emotech instantly because I remembered how I loved the guy in the beta, and I was like, what are the chances I'm gonna get a second Emotech? And boom, second Emotech.
And the
from
random, yeah.
And that's why Necrons are the faction that I completed only the other day. It's the last faction I completed the collection on, even though it was my first faction, because I messed up the wild card. So yeah.
I kind of think that's pretty bad design from EG in terms of the campaign. I'd actually like to see them change that. That random legendary at the end of the campaign dictates how you collect the whole time. If they just made that a legendary, and then if you pay for premium, you get a secondary one. I think that's fine. And then you wouldn't have this problem, and then you could actually get excited when you start the campaign by actually crafting your first legendary, and then you'd have that to play with. And I think from a feel-good perspective, I think that would make way more sense, right? What do you think?
Or maybe what they could do is like they could move the random one to the first node.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah,
and have two
I'd do that.
Two wild cards in the end.
Yeah, I'd buy that. That's pretty good. What do you think, Tim?
I agree. I think you just don't want people to feel like they are investing time for no reason, right? And like that's where you lose people. It's like, great, I grinded this whole campaign and now I have I've literally forgotten, and I'm like, oh man, I can't wait for my next legendary wild card. And then I'm like, infinite biomorph. That's not what I need, you know? So it's, I mean, even as someone who plays a ton of this game, I like forgot and like wanted it to be just a wild card. So I think I think both suggestions are great, and I think any opportunity for there to be like maybe a little bit of randomness, but it's, you know, it's still exciting, and then you get more agency at least later, you know, after you've played the game a bit and kind of learned it. I think the more that players can feel like they're making the decisions to optimize their experience, usually the better the experience.
100%. Well, guys, I think that what we should all do now, not just for your benefit, Tim, not just for your benefit, Ecclesia, or even for mine, but for the greater good itself, we should all end this podcast and go and open up Warpforge and go and play some Tau. What do you think?
Totally. I want to hit some Tau as well.
Let's go do it.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to blast some people for sure.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not a biggest fan of the faction in reality. Like in lore wise, like
Heresy.
I think probably my least favorite one. But in the game, first of all, they seem really fun, and it's freaking content, man. I've been waiting for some content. Like that's why I've been switching to HHL lately, because there was no content. Literally, I was like mashing the same warlords over and over again. It got like here, so I was like, okay, take a break, and now I can finally make content.
I'm looking forward to seeing some Warpforge content on the Ecclesiax channel again. It's going to be good.
Oh, hell yes. There's going to be a special on 2,000 subs as well, boys, so stay tuned.
Nice. Well, listen, first of all, obviously, huge thanks to Tim for coming and joining us, and really appreciate that. And it's been fun. And thank you to everyone who's been listening. If you like this podcast, obviously share it, and please go and check out Ecclesiax Part 1 if you haven't already. Like the videos, subscribe, it helps us out. Tim obviously is a content creator, if you didn't know, and has actually released quite a lot. I think in the last week or two you've like really ramped up the sort of quantity of videos, haven't you, Tim?
Yeah, we're trying to get the gears going again on the War Machine over here. So.
And you're going to be doing a lot of Tau content next couple of weeks?
Yes, I've got a little bit of flex time with work and things like that, so it's I'm really gonna try and get into that as soon as I can.
Nice. Well, we'll put Tim's channel link in the description, so go over to Tim's channel and subscribe and watch his content too. And yeah, if we love the game, guys, the more we can support it, the more then the whole thing just grows. So. Thanks for hanging out, and any comments on anything we've said, any thoughts you've got on the Tau faction, we'd love to hear it. So drop us a message in the comments. Until next time, peace. See you on the ladder. Thanks for coming, guys.